This is Maple Blues.
Welcome to the Maple Blues Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the NHL, the St. Louis Blues, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and other things hockey. I'm Penguin Note.
And I'm Charlie ND.
Welcome to episode 6, and in today's episode we have a few things we want to talk about. And firstly, I want to talk about the outdoor games. If you may have forgotten, the Florida Panthers hosted the Winter Classic earlier this month, and I saw a lot over Instagram and Twitter. It was a lot of people were complaining that, they're a Southern team. It doesn't snow there. Why do they get a Winter Classic? I just thought, why are people complaining about a team that plays in the Sun Belt getting an outdoor game? I feel like every NHL team, regardless of their market, should have that opportunity to play in an outdoor game. And next year's Winter Classic is in Utah, so it is probably going to snow there. So all the people that said, where's the snow? They could shut up next year. That was my take. What was your take, Charlie?
Here's the thing. I sort of understand where people are coming from in the whole thing about not wanting the Florida Panthers to host an outdoor game because they play in such a warm environment. In fact, they are the only team in the NHL that plays in an area that can be considered tropical. And I think that sort of undermines what the point of the Winter Classic is supposed to be. It's supposed to evoke nostalgia, playing on frozen rinks and all that. Now, with that being said, though, I think it makes sense for the Panthers to have a chance to host an outdoor game. I think every team should get a chance to do that at some point. But I personally would have preferred for it to be a stadium series over a Winter Classic. And I also probably would have preferred if they played a rival team and not the New York Rangers, if I'm being honest. The Rangers have been in so many outdoor games. They are undefeated in all their outdoor games, mind you, but they've been in so many, and I would have preferred to see them face off against the Lightning, or even the Leafs. They've sort of struck up a rivalry in recent years, although I don't think it's going to last for that much longer. But I sort of understand the criticism. But with that being said, the event itself, it was fine. People had concerns about the ice, and it was going to melt, but it wasn't even really that hot that day. And the NHL, they did their research. They found a way to make it so the ice wouldn't melt. They went so far as to track where the sun would be in the sky. And, they wanted this to be a success. Bottom line, I'm in support of the Panthers hosting an outdoor game. I don't think it should have been the Winter Classic. And I will say, both teams had fantastic jerseys. That is exactly what I would picture Panthers jerseys to look like if they existed in the 1940s. So good job on that front.
Yeah, so I did like the Panthers initially when it was released. I was a little hesitant, but as it got closer, I warmed up to it a bit more. At least with the Jumping Cat, and I believe they were actually based off of 1920s jerseys. But with the Rangers, they were basically a flip flop of their 100th anniversary jerseys. And yeah, going to the whole rivalry thing, I could see why the NHL wouldn't have the Panthers play the Lightning, because the NHL is having both Florida teams host outdoor games this year. Although I think I saw one person, it was either in a video or a post, say the Lightning should have got a Winter Classic because they role play as a traditional team, and Florida should have got the Stadium Series. But I still think it was a good opportunity for Florida, the back-to-back champions, to have an outdoor game. But sure, they could have played someone else. They could have played someone like the Hurricanes or another Southern team. I guess the Hurricanes are the only one I could think of. But yeah, I guess I thought it was fine. And speaking of the Leafs, I saw on Instagram a bunch of people saying, next year's Winter Classic should be the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens at the Rogers Center, which I just remembered we talked about that like a year ago, and you said it could not happen because of the Rogers Center dimensions, or I think it was something like that.
Yeah, we did talk about that. I think it could happen in the Rogers Center, but I would honestly prefer it to be in BMO Field just because of the sight lines. That's just me. But, Rogers Center is a great building. A lot of people have great memories going there for baseball games or what have you, and it has undergone renovations to make it more baseball specific. But the main reason that couldn't happen is because the Winter Classic, it's targeted towards American TV audiences. We have the Heritage Classic, which is always played in Canada, and that's supposed to be meant for Canadian TV audiences. So Leafs versus Habs is on the table. It just won't be a Winter Classic game.
Yeah, and since you brought up the Heritage Classic, next October, I believe, the Jets will host the Canadians in the Heritage Classic, so it already wouldn't be possible for a team to play in two different outdoor games, although it has been done before, but it was the same type. Like the Rangers, they played in two Stadium Series games in 2014, but it'd be completely different. Now, a Maple Leafs Canadians Heritage Classic, probably they would probably do it at the Rogers Center because the Leafs already played a game at BMO Field several years ago in that Centennial Classic that nobody remembers. Now, in terms of the Stadium Series, Dallas is hosting it. I believe it's been public knowledge since November or December. We don't know who the opponent is, but rumors are floating around that it's going to be Vegas, which I guess that makes sense. A Southern rivalry, Dallas and Vegas, two of the most successful Sun Belt teams in the NHL. I think that'll be interesting next year at Jerry World.
Yeah, I would be in favor of Stars versus Golden Knights, although I'm sure there are already some people who are sick of seeing the Golden Knights in outdoor games, which I completely understand. But those two teams, despite not being in the same division, have built up quite a fierce rivalry over the years, so I think that would be a good matchup. I would also be okay with it being the Avalanche, although that's probably not going to happen because they're playing in the Winter Classic. But Golden Knights makes the most sense, and I just gotta say, outdoor hockey at Jerry World, that is going to be amazing. That's a huge stadium. It's one of the biggest in the NFL, so I'm sure the atmosphere will be unreal, and I think that is definitely a great move by the NHL.
And I want to plug in the Blues for a bit. I highly doubt it's going to be the Blues. No way the NHL wants the Blues into another outdoor game. I feel like now the Blues are done with outdoor games until either Kansas City gets an NHL team and the NHL has them play the Battle of Missouri at Arrowhead, or the NHL decides to have the Blues play an outdoor game at Arrowhead because reasons or neutral site or whatever. But yeah, it'll probably be the Golden Knights and the Stars. And I also want to mention, since people were complaining about the snow, I believe when the Winter Classic was here in St. Louis, it did not snow, and I don't remember people complaining that there was no snow in St. Louis. But also, I was 9 when it happened, and I did not have social media at the time, so I have no idea what the reaction was. But yeah, since people were complaining about snow, I wanted to just bring that up. But yeah, I'm excited for the outdoor games next year and the jerseys. And since I believe we're done with outdoor games, let's talk about our teams. And I want to talk about my team first. If I remember correctly, in the last episode we recorded, I was hopeful that the Blues would be able to rebound. And right now, they are currently 19, 23, and 8, and are the second worst team in the league. And it is a disaster. It's been a disaster this year. I don't know. It feels like everything that could go wrong did. And I don't know. I'm still slightly optimistic they can try and turn it around, but the more losses they get, the less ground they are able to gain, especially with the Olympic break, the trade rumors, and this schedule that has them. Because they only have like the rest of this week, next week, and 2 games in February. And after that, it's Olympic break. And from what I've heard, a lot of the trades will happen after the break. So whatever standing a team is when the Olympic break happens, that could very well decide what their decision will be at the trade deadline. Now, I've heard trade rumors. From what I heard, Robert Thomas is not available, which is the right move. But I'm hearing rumors that Falk, Schenn, even Bennington, they could all be traded. Maybe Falk, because he's had a good year and you could get a bit of a return, get some young prospects and maybe a pick. Schenn, he was almost traded last year, I think to Toronto, but mainly the momentum they had before the trade deadline stopped that trade from happening. Bennington is very unlikely. I don't think anyone would trade for him with the awful season he's had. But yeah, I am one of the last people to hop on the tank train. But if this team is still in not a good shape at the time of the Olympic break, I might as well have to fight flag and get on the tank train. And hopefully we get McKenna or Stenberg. I hear Stenberg, one of the top prospects, wants to play with his brother Otto, who is also on the Blues. So I don't know. Do I hop on the tank train or not. It might all depend. But then again, there's a cynical part of me that thinks the Blues are just a hot streak away from sneaking into the playoffs. As I'm pulling up standings right now, they are currently at 46 points. San Jose is in the second wild card with 53 points. If I just do some quick math here, the Blues are 7 points out of a playoff spot. They currently have one, two, three, four, five, 7 games before the All-Star break. So if they were to win all 7 of them, that would give them 14 points, which is it possible? Maybe, but it's very unlikely. If the only way I could see the Blues having any bit of a pulse, they have to win basically all the rest of their games before the Olympic break, which could be possible, but at the same time, this team just looks off. Something just feels wrong. I don't know if it was game 7 last year or a bad offseason move trading for Mayu, which is still looking like a bad move. Something just doesn't seem right. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, the Blues are not in good shape, but you're right to have the sneaking suspicion that maybe they could go on a hot streak. I mean, we've seen them do it before, as recently as last year, so as long as those types of things keep happening, there will always be that little flicker of hope. With that being said, I think the time is now for the Blues to try and get as good of a pick as possible. I think, from where I'm standing, I think a tank is the right thing to do. I don't think this is going to be a cup contending year for them. Even if they sneak into a wild card spot, the competition is going to be fierce. More fierce than last
They would
year.
get killed. They would get killed by Colorado. I mean, even Doug Armstrong, apparently the GM of the Blues, said that the Blues are going to get killed by Colorado if they made the playoffs, which makes me kind of sad that the Blues were to go on another mad dash, get into a playoff spot, and have to face this Avalanche team. And we couldn't pull a 19 Blue Jackets and 23 Panthers and humiliate a record-setting team. That would be absolutely hilarious, but it is very unlikely. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Now, I'm not familiar with the contract situation on the Blues, but I think it's time to start selling and commit to the tank and try to get this rebuild going as soon as possible.
Yeah, right now I am trying to look for. The Blues have their own Blues actually on their website have a contract tracker. So Braden Shen is owed 6.5 million until 28-29. Or no, yeah, he has 3 year. Believe it's 3 years left on his contract. Falk is under contract for another 2 more years. And I feel like Falk, Shen, those are 2 you could get a good return on. Bennington's also a UFA in a few years, but I feel like he's staying put. Joel Hofer, however, he's been excellent in net. I feel like if anything is going to get the Blues, is going to drag the Blues back into the playoffs, it's going to be Joel Hofer. He's going to be, if he can play like a brick wall, like he did, like he's had a weird season. Like one game he gets blown up and allows like 6 goals. The next he'll pitch a shutout. It's just weird. He's either tied or in like the top 2 in terms of shutouts this year, which is just bizarre. But yeah, in terms of trades, I feel like these next 7 games are honestly going to tell, do the Blues tank the rest of the year? I feel like the mindset could be, all right, this year has not been good. Let's just tank the rest of the year, get a good draft pick. And also Doug Armstrong is ceding GM position to Alex Steen, so the mindset will probably be, this year has been bad, but let's just do this and that, tank, get a good draft pick, let Alex Steen take over and try to fix everything, or reshuffle the deck and try again next year. But also part of me believes there may be some sort of curse where when the Blues finish the season on the road against a division rival, since 2012, they have missed the playoffs. It has happened 3 times already, and this year they are scheduled to finish the season on the road against a division rival. that is probably going to be my next video. So this is a sneak peek for my next video. I'm going to be discussing whether it is a curse or not, because it has kind of stuck out to me. So I want to really uncover and see, is this really a curse or not?
Now I want to shift gears and talk about my team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, the last time we had an episode, the Leafs were not doing good, to say the least. Everyone knew they were going to take a step back this year, but no one predicted just how terrible they were going to be. They had a very poor October and a very poor November, in which they lost, I believe, 6 of 7 games. And people were talking about if the team should commit to a full rebuild and if their window was truly closed for good, which is just so doomerist and nihilistic, but it was just the reality of the situation. They were not doing good. However, things started to change around late December. There were lots of people in the media and among the fan base calling for Craig Berube's job. And people were just not liking him at all, and people always want to look for a scapegoat, and Berube was the scapegoat. And when they kept losing and losing, people thought, okay, with each loss that goes by, surely we're getting close to him being fired for good. But then something unexpected happened. They didn't fire Berube, they fired assistant coach Mark Savard, which nobody saw coming. However, since that happened, things have begun to change. The Leafs have actually started to get decent. Not amazing, but decent. Some things that have changed. They're not getting outshot 2-1 in every game now. Their power play is actually performing. And also, Austin Matthews has begun scoring again. He's gone from cold to red hot. And so here we find ourselves at over halfway through the season. The Leafs have 24 wins out of 50 games played. They have 57 points, and they find themselves 1 point out of a playoff spot. And they're doing okay as of late, 5-2-3 in their last 10. The only problem is the rest of the Atlantic Division is red hot. The Lightning, 9-0-1 in their last 10. The Red Wings, 7-2-1 in their last 10, including a win over the Leafs. The Habs and Sabres both have 6 wins in their last 10. The Bruins have 8 wins in their last 10. And the Panthers and Senators have not been doing as good. They only have 4 wins in their last 10. But that's not abysmal or anything. So there's starting to be hope again. There is actual hope in this fan base, but there's still a lot more to get done here. Funnily enough, Berube staying put and Mark Savard getting the boot actually confirmed this theory that my dad had, where he basically just said that Berube doesn't do anything, positive or negative. He commented that he doesn't see Berube saying anything of substance in his post-game interviews. He usually just rambles on about effort level or whatever without actually offering any strategy. And he thinks that the assistant coaches are actually pulling the weight behind the scenes, and we're actually seeing improvement now. He thinks Berube is just a cheerleader, in his words, which is hilarious. But his theory could be correct. I mean, Berube's still there, and the team's getting better. And then, he also compared him to, like, Martin St. Louis, who is the coach of the Habs. And, he actually sees him, conducting a team with passion. He's offering, like, substance in his timeouts. He's sharing strategies. He has a vision, and that vision's getting executed. And a good coach makes a big difference for a team. The Habs are having a great season. Same could be said for the Islanders as well. Their coach is exceptional, and he's passionate, He gets the guys fired up, and that's important for a hockey team, And my dad doesn't see Berube doing that, and to be honest, I don't either. I'm at the point where I would be completely neutral to Berube getting the boot or not, but considering the Leafs are in a decent stretch, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. But despite the Leafs getting better, I am not optimistic about this season. The best we could hope for is like a third place finish, and even then I think either Tampa Bay or Detroit will mop the floor with us. Although we've already beaten Tampa Bay twice, but The Red Wings have had our number, including tonight, which was a shame to see. Like, John Gibson, I'm a big fan of John Gibson because, as a lot of you know, the Anaheim Ducks are my second favorite team, and Gibson was on that team for a while. So I've come to like Gibson, and he had a legacy game tonight. Like, he played out of his mind, and the Leafs just had absolutely no answer for him. So, it's nice to see him still going strong. Yeah, here we stand. Leafs just out of a playoff spot. I hope to make it in, obviously, because if we don't, we're just going to get a crappy draft pick, and we're just going to continue to be mediocre. So ideally, a wild card finish, but who knows? We could surge, but it's hockey. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm pulling up standings right now, and I see that the Leafs, as you mentioned, were 1 point. I think you mentioned the 1 point behind Boston for that final East wildcard spot. The Maple Leafs are in a better spot than the Blues. I think that's pretty obvious to everyone. And I'm pretty sure this winning streak they've been on has saved Berube's job. I think the Leafs, they could have a chance if they can go. If their form that they've been on right now keeps up throughout this final stretch before the break and after the break, the Leafs have a chance to, at minimum, clinch a wild card spot. If they can get even hotter and hope that one of the three top Atlantic teams implodes, then they'll have a chance at a top spot in the division. But that would take more miracles. But I do think the Leafs definitely have a better chance than the Blues to make the playoffs. But I think there's hope for the Maple Leafs. I feel like Berube's a good coach, but maybe your dad was right that Berube wasn't enforcing his will, and it was more Marc Savard. Maybe it was Marc Savard pulling all the strings, and when the Leafs noticed that Savard wasn't doing or whatever he was doing wasn't working, they gave him the boot instead. I don't feel like Berube would be fired. I feel like this winning streak probably saved his job. The only way I feel like he would be fired would be at the end of the year if the Leafs do miss the playoffs and it's in a brutal fashion. But yeah, that's my take on this.
It is worth noting that earlier in the year, when the Leafs were doing really bad, you said that you said that you trust the Leafs to get it together more than the Blues, and you ended up being right. Your vision has manifested itself clearly, and we've seen the power dynamic shift in the East here. The Flyers, Capitals, and Devils have all fallen out of a playoff spot in pretty pathetic fashion. And the Lightning, that team that everyone says year after year, this is the year they run out of gas. This is the year they finally fall back. People have been saying that like every year since like 2020. And just when you think they're out of it, they find a way to claw on back, and they are surging. Now, does that mean they're going to contend for a cup? Who knows? We have no idea, but their longevity is very impressive. And I think you could also attribute that a lot to John Cooper. I think he is one of the best coaches in the NHL. And like I said before, coaching matters here. So it's great to see Cooper having success because I like him as a coach and as a player. But obviously it's not ideal to have the Lightning so high up in the standings yet again. It's painful to have to share a division with them sometimes, but that's how it is.
And if we want to talk about success, Buffalo. My goodness, Buffalo. As of the time we are recording this, it is January 21st, 2026 at 10:05 p.m. Central, 8:05 Pacific. The Sabres are in the first Eastern wildcard spot. They currently are a point ahead of Boston. They are only a few points behind Montreal for third place in the Atlantic. I don't know. Part of me is thinking maybe this is the year for the Sabres. They've gone on a hot streak. They look completely better since Kevin Adams was fired, which I did not know he was the main problem, but maybe just a touch of luck. But then again, I feel like it's happened before where the Sabres slump out of the gate, get on a winning streak, trip on a tree branch, and stumble out of a playoff spot. But there might be some slight optimism that this is the year. This is different. Which maybe it is. That would be good for them. Good for Buffalo. Good for them to finally break the drought. Could it happen? Probably. hopefully, maybe. But Florida, Matthew Tkachuk is finally healthy and he's back in the lineup. So I think Florida could start to when they start to regain health, they're gonna start to get better and start to claw their way back into the playoff hunt. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. Florida is starting to get healthy. I want to know what happened to New Jersey. I thought New Jersey was good. New Jersey slumping. The Capitals, I think, are just mediocrity. A lot of the East seems to be just mediocrity at best. And yeah, as from just me looking at standings.
I will say this about the Buffalo Sabres. Even though they are our rival and I'm supposed to hate them, I don't think any hockey fan deserves to go 15 years without experiencing playoffs hockey. That is cruel. Buffalo in general is a very underrated NHL city. They've had some very loyal fans. You know, even though they don't always sell out, there are always fans there cheering on the team. And they've had some of the best goaltenders in the NHL, some of the best lines. And, you know, there's a lot of history with that franchise, more than people like to give them credit for. And so I would be happy to see them back into the playoffs. You know, I think they deserve it. They deserve to see a playoffs appearance. It's been way too long. It's been since I was 8 years old that they last made the playoffs. So let's see if this time they can actually keep up this momentum and actually find a way to sneak in. And who knows, maybe they could actually end up upsetting a team like the Hurricanes or the Lightning or the Red Wings. It hasn't been unheard of. I also want to talk about the Avalanche here for a little bit. They are still surging. 34, 5, and 8. And somehow, by some miracle, the Leafs are one of 4 teams that have managed to beat them in their arena, which I went into that game thinking, oh, well, this is a scheduled loss. Then we somehow beat them. They still only have 1 regulation loss at home, which is insane. And naturally, everyone's going to start talking about, oh, remember what happened to the 2019 Lightning? Remember what happened to the 2023 Bruins? And I don't know, like, it's just fun to think about, you know, a team that is one of the best we've ever seen in NHL history. There is a realistic possibility that they go down to the Mammoth or the Sharks that are basically just running on the power of friendship. No elite forward core, no elite defensive core, just the power of friendship taking down an absolute titan in the Colorado Avalanche. Not to disrespect the Mammoth or Sharks or anything, you know. They have very promising young squads, but, you know, it's just something fun to think about. As of right now, how would you gauge the Avalanche's chances of actually making a deep playoff run?
I don't know if it's because I'm a fan of a rival and I absolutely hate the Avalanche with a capital H, or if I've seen this movie twice, but something about this Avalanche team just screams to me first round embarrassment in any way possible. It could be blowing a 3-1 series lead. It could be getting swept. It could be getting reverse swept, which would be the absolute hilarious thing to happen. Say the Avalanche win 70 games. They win 70 games. They smash the record of the Bruins. They go up 3-0 against a wild card team, and then they lose 4 straight. They become the first team since the 2014 Sharks to blow a 3-0 series lead. Any way I put it, I feel like first round elimination. That's all I keep thinking is first round elimination. Something about this Avalanche team just screams to me they're getting knocked out in the first round. I don't know what it is. I don't know how. I just feel like it's going to happen. I mean, I had a gut feeling Nashville would miss the playoffs last year. I had a feeling Winnipeg would miss the playoffs or at least take a step back. This year, I have a feeling Colorado's getting knocked out in the first round. I would love to see it happen. If it does happen, I will laugh hysterically. I hope it does happen. I feel like the Avalanche are really good and probably going to set some records. But I just feel like they're going to fail. Something about it, this team, they're going to fail. I don't know. It's not a matter of if, it's when. I have a feeling it will happen, but it'll just happen. The answer will just be when. Hopefully the first round against a wild card team.
I'm going to remember everything you just said, and if that happens, I'm going to clip that. I am going to post it. I'm going to make an edit because even though I don't hate the Avalanche, them losing in round 1 would be the absolute funniest outcome that could possibly happen in these playoffs. I will laugh hysterically if they lose in round 1, especially if it's a reverse sweep. Oh my gosh. Let me just say, the hockey gods, they've been tempting us. Okay, we've had some almost reverse sweeps in recent history, right? The Oilers almost came back from 3-0 down, right? The Hurricanes against the Rangers in 2024, they won games 4 and 5, and they were up 3-1 in game 6. And then the Senators last year almost reverse swept the Leafs. So the hockey gods have been tempting us. I think it's only a matter of time before a reverse sweep happens. And if it happened to the Avalanche, that would be so much worse than the 2019 Lightning, I think. That would be insane. And it's a possibility. Again, I don't have any ill will towards the Avs, but there just is something so captivating about watching a juggernaut fall, especially in hockey for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just so captivating. And right now, the Avs' only weak spot is their power play. That's been pretty well documented. Their power play is surprisingly terrible. They've been great in every other aspect of their game, just their power play is their weak spot. But who knows? Who knows if the dam will break on the Colorado Avalanche?
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to double check to be sure. I think when the Blues first played the Avalanche, the Avs power play lit them up like a Christmas tree. I'm going to double check. All I know is the Avalanche they're a juggernaut, definitely. They're probably going to get the President's Trophy, which the last time they got the President's Trophy, which was that weird shortened 2021 season where the divisions were all tumbled up. Okay, I'm checking the game right now. They absolutely had one power play goal, and of course it was against us, but even then, if they're good in every single other statistic, I don't think the power play is that big of a deal. And yeah, you did mention you were going to clip that. Honestly, if it does, clip it, put it on your channel, and we'll just see what happens, because it would be absolutely hilarious to see the Avalanche fail, because I despise them. They're a division rival. They've knocked the Blues out of the playoffs twice since I've seen them. Since I've been a diehard fan, they've knocked the Blues out of the playoffs twice, and 3 times since their move from Quebec. So it would be absolutely hilarious to see them fail.
Well, the silver lining there is that one of those years the Avs knocked the Blues out of the playoffs was 2021, which no one was paying attention to because everyone was so focused on my team blowing a 3-1 lead. So you're lucky we took some of the heat off the Blues that year. But still, I imagine that wasn't fun.
Yeah, nobody really expected us to do anything, so I don't think it was that big of a deal. Yeah, we got swept, but then again, we were facing the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed is supposed to win, especially against us, who barely squeaked into the playoffs because the rest of the division was a joke.
Yeah, what a weird season that was. And one last thing I want to say about the standings is that this year, particularly in the West, we've been seeing a lot of teams get a lot of points in overtime. Like, you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, they have 12 overtime losses, which is a lot. Like, so many of their games have gone into overtime that it's enough to propel them into first in the division. And then you have the LA Kings.
They have 13.
I know.
That's just mad.
They've only won 20 out of 49 games. That is not good. And yet, they're tied with the Sharks for the last wildcard spot. And then you have the Oilers. Again, they've lost most of their games and they're second. And only 2 teams in the Pacific, the Ducks and the Sharks, have won more than half their games. And then in the Central, you have 3 juggernaut teams, an okay team, and 4 not great teams. The reason I bring this up is because this year I've noticed a lot of discourse surrounding the standings format. And a lot of people are saying the NHL should switch to doing a 3-2-1-0 format, wherein you get 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for an overtime or shootout win, 1 point for an overtime or shootout loss, and 0 points for a regulation loss. Now, I think this would help to address some of these issues, and I think it would make the standings accurately reflect which teams are more powerful to a better degree. However, I think a lot of the people who want that would also be satisfied with the NHL just going to straight up wins and losses and like just ditching the point system altogether. Because like as it stands right now, losing in overtime isn't really a loss. Effectively, it is a half win, right? Because that's how it's counted in the standings, more or less. It's effectively wins, losses, and half wins. And so, yeah, maybe the 3-2-1-0 would be better for some people, but I think all of those people, what they really want, even if they don't realize it, is just straight wins and losses. And if that was the case, and we just moved to wins and losses, the standings would look drastically different, to say the least.
Yeah, and I feel like if there were no overtime points, you would see a lot more. I'd say there'd be some more effort in overtime, or not overtime, in the third period. Because I feel like at about a certain point in certain games, both teams internally feel like, yeah, you know what, we're not going to break the tie in the third period. Let's just both get a point and go to overtime. Kind of feels like teams get lazy-ish when you're guaranteed, hey, we at least got a point. And if we did lose in overtime, we got a point. And yeah, I think that's actually an interesting topic for a future video, to look at the standings from last year and use that 3-2-1-0 format. You said it was regulation wins, overtime losses, regulation losses. That's an interesting idea. Take that system, compare last year's standings with certain teams, and how would that affect the league? That would be a long project, but that could be an interesting video.
It is worth noting that the PWHL already uses that system, and I would like to go more in depth about the PWHL in a future episode, because after all, this is a hockey podcast. And while there are some things about the PWHL that I like and some things that I don't like, I think their standings format is a better representation of which teams are stronger. And yeah, that's definitely something we got to talk about more in a future episode. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to start talking about the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. We should talk about the PWHL in a future video. I haven't really watched as much PWHL action, but also because I'm in St. Louis, and the closest team we have is, I believe, Minnesota, because there is no PWHL team south of Minnesota or New York. But yeah, let's talk about Olympics, and why don't you start the conversation about the Olympics?
Right. Well, there have been some controversies surrounding the rink itself, and Milan's had a long time to prepare for this, and to see so many problems arising this close to the Olympics has been bad. For those of you who don't know, there was some problems with the ice size, which seems to have been fixed now. There have been some practice events held in the arena, which have gone off okay. And I'm just looking at pictures of it on Google Maps. Or, not Google Maps, Google Images. I'm looking at some images here. And by the looks of it, it looks fine. There is like this wall behind one of the nets, which is kind of weird, that sort of artificially reduces the capacity. And I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of the scoreboard. I think it looks kind of small, but I am still excited nonetheless. I think it's great that Italy is trying to, bolster itself in the hockey world a little bit. We have still yet to see an Italian-born player play in the NHL. We've seen, I think, one Italian-born AHLer, but not an NHL player yet. So, if this goes well, I would like to see, hockey become more popular in Italy, especially since here in Canada, we have a lot of people with Italian ancestry. So, it would be nice to see that connection sort of help to bolster the popularity of the sport over there. And I'm excited for the Olympics. I just gotta let me pull up Canada's roster. Now I think about it. Let's see what my country's working with here. All right, so I have the roster pulled up, and I gotta say I'm liking these. I'm liking these picks here. Unfortunately, there are no Leafs players on Team Canada this year, but what can you do? So you have the people you'd expect to see, McDavid and Crosby. It's always so electric when they're on the ice together. It's amazing. I love seeing that. We're rocking with Binnington, Thompson, and Kemper in net. We have some usual suspects on defense like Drew Doughty and Josh Morrissey and Thomas Harley, who I believe is the only player on the team who was not born in Canada. And also, we have some notable names behind the bench like Doug Armstrong, Ryan Getzlaff, John Cooper, who I was singing his praises earlier in the episode. He's the head coach. Love to see it. We got Peter DeBoer, Bruce Cassidy. So many names that, like, from a hockey fan, you're thinking, yes. Yes. We got Macklin Celebrini, the young phenom. And so many people were hoping he would make the roster, and he did, which I'm so glad to see. And, but the elephant in the room here is that some people are upset that Connor Bedard was not on the roster. And, yeah, some people are upset about that. And honestly, I kind of saw that coming. Like, I thought, like, there's a chance, but I honestly didn't think he was a lock. Next Olympics, I think he will appear on the roster, but this year I'm not surprised he isn't. But I am very happy with this roster. I would love to see another generation of hockey fans in this country get to see a moment adjacent to the golden goal, because it's been so long since we've had like a really memorable hockey moment in the Olympics from Canada, because, you know, there was this stretch where there were no NHLers there. And so the young generation deserves their own chance to see Olympic greatness. I was 7 years old when Crosby scored that golden goal. Actually, no, I was 6 years old. It was the month before my 7th birthday. And that is still talked about to this day. So, you know, it's great to see the next generation of players here. And of course, Mitch Marner's there as well. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I have no animosity towards Mitch Marner at all. I still respect him as a player and as a person. And I will be cheering loud and proud for him at the Olympics. And I can't wait to watch the Olympics with my fellow countrymen.
Okay, and as for I'll actually start with the U.S. roster. The roster seems to be pretty much the same as last year, if I'm not mistaken. You have the Kachuk brothers, you have, who's goalie? You have Hellebuck and Ottinger as probably your two. The U.S. roster seems to be pretty much the same as last year's Four Nations face-off. Now, I want to bring this up. Now, I'm not getting political. I should warn all listeners that this is not a political statement. We don't talk politics here. But on the day of the Four Nations final game, the U.S. team had a video call with Trump. And in that game, Canada won in overtime. And I wouldn't bring this up, but it happened before. Trump said the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs lost. Trump said the Yankees would win the World Series. They got knocked out by the Blue Jays. So I'm just saying, if Trump does anything, any sort of prediction or anything with the U.S. hockey team, and they lose, that's just me raising some... I would just want people to start raising some eyebrows and say there may be a Trump curse. All right, that's enough politics for this episode. I gotta wash my tongue. Anyway... Yeah, the Olympic roster seems pretty solid. There's this part of me that thinks we're not going to win gold. I don't think the U.S. is going to win gold. Something about, I don't know what it is, but just something feels like they're just destined for second place. I don't know what it is. I don't know how. Something just feels off. Something that feels like the U.S. is good, but not good enough. Not good enough to win gold. Maybe they can get silver or bronze. But I'm just not confident about this Olympic team. But also, I didn't pay as much attention to the Four Nations face-off last year until the final game. So I could be wrong, and again, I could be wrong this year. Or say the U.S. pulls off some massive miracle, it wouldn't exactly be a miracle, but more, they are impressive and they win gold. They get revenge for last year. I'm. It's all a big what if to me. Once again, I could be wrong. Now I talked about the roster, the arena. I want to bring this up as well. Milan was awarded the 2026 Winter Olympics on this date, June 24th, 2019. Literally a few weeks after the Blues won the cup. Now, construction on that arena, do you know when it started? It didn't start until November of 2023. I was a junior in high school when construction started. The Olympics were awarded in between me before I started 7th grade. Now, I guess there's some reason you could defend Milan, the construction, for being a bit delayed. Probably the pandemic probably put a halt to that, and they had to, and because I think Italy's idea of how to handle the pandemic was different than it was in the States. They probably were a bit more cautious, and it took a bit more time for construction efforts to get back to full speed, and there may have been other issues that we don't know about. At the same time, you've had a long time. You've had 6 years to prepare for this. That is a full high school tenure. How do you mess that up? And it's not just with construction being rushed, but the ice quality and the scoreboard that looks like it was bought off Craigslist. I just thought of that joke now. That scoreboard does look like it was bought off Craigslist. But yeah, the arena was rushed and the ice quality was apparently not good in the first game. Hopefully they're gonna fix that, and hopefully the scoreboard is just a temporary one and they have a new one that's not ready yet and they'll get it ready. And I also want to or at least put this up as a discussion point. What are they going to do with the arena afterwards? I hope this arena is a way to integrate hockey into Italy and hopefully create and develop hockey players, because that could lead into your point of we've never had an Italian born NHL player, but this could be another grassroots effort. Hopefully the hockey at the Olympics this year isn't a disaster, because if it's a massive success, that could get the interest in Italy into hockey at some bit of an all-time high, because I don't know what the interest in hockey is now, but if they see hockey, probably some for the first time, they could get interested in it. And yeah, I'm just hoping that these Olympics, at least hockey, isn't a disaster. I'm not really going to be, I don't think I'm going to be watching the Olympics. I just generally have not been interested in Olympic play. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'll watch the gold medal game if it involves the US and Canada, or maybe if I'm bored, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm kind of burned out, or I need a bit of a break from however good or bad the Blues have been. But I generally have not really been as interested in Olympic hockey as other people have. Even though the US has returned to the Olympics for the first time since I was in first grade, since I was, yeah, I think I turned 7 when the Olympics were last in February of 2014. So these Olympics, they're going to be interesting. I'm curious how it goes. Will we see another rematch of last year's Four Nations gold medal game? Hopefully these Olympics are good, and hopefully they're interesting enough to get me to sit down and watch more than just a few games.
I will say this, though. I think as time goes on and we get closer to the Olympics, I think your interest in the Olympics might grow, as hype starts to build around it and the entire hockey world starts talking about it. Because it is, like, quite the spectacle to behold. Like, when Team Canada is in the Olympics, my sense of national pride, like, goes through the roof. I don't know what it is, but it is captivating. And I think it could serve as a nice distraction from the Blues dumpster fire season so far. I do want to say one last thing about Team Canada. And that's the jerseys, bro. I don't own any Team Canada merchandise from any sport, and I wanted to buy a Hockey Canada jersey for this year's Olympics. So, I was waiting anxiously for when the jerseys would be released. And then they came out, and I'm just thinking, what the hell is this? I don't even know what to say. Let me collect my thoughts here real quick. Okay, so it feels like these jerseys are trying to be futuristic. They've got the leaf on the front with all different like shading and like with polygons all over it. And that looks fine. I don't have a problem with that, but like what is going on with the striping? Like the striping doesn't go all the way around, which looks weird. It looks like a borderline practice jersey. And like there's nothing being done like around the collar. Like I feel like that's a very much missed opportunity. And the black jersey, dude. A black leaf on a black jersey. It's like they're trying to be cool and edgy and like forward thinking or whatever, but it misses the mark here. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I can't say none of these jerseys are really calling my name, And honestly, this was such a letdown compared to what Canada jerseys have looked like in previous years. And like compared to like the USA, right? The USA has a timeless classic look for their hockey jerseys. And this is just like trying to be innovative and futuristic, but it's just completely missing the mark. They look like practice jerseys. I think like the black leaf on the red looks weird. The black leaf on the black looks weird. And the white jersey, it's just so minimalistic, dude. And I gotta say, that is like our biggest flaw. Maybe it'll look better on the ice. Who knows? I'll reserve. I'm open to changing my mind. We'll see what happens when they hit the ice with these on. But I gotta say, I wanted these to be good so bad, but these aren't it for me.
If it makes you feel any better, I am not impressed by the U.S. jerseys. They just scream to me New York Rangers copy paste, like the Team USA. Hey, Rangers, can I copy your homework? Rangers. Sure, but just don't make it obvious. I just don't. Maybe it's because both just so happen to have the exact same color scheme, but you had last year's Four Nations jerseys, which were amazing, and then you have this. I'm also one that despises this whole unfinished stripe, which just seems kind of trying to be edgy, but it's not. I mean, the U.S. jersey is awful. The Canada jersey is awful. I don't know why Canada has to have a third jersey for some reason. I'm just glad the U.S. doesn't have a red jersey because that would look hideous. I guess at least we're not. Neither of us are France, which if you've seen the French jersey, looks like someone just went on Canva and typed a few words, put a few stripes, and said, "Yep, that's good enough." I think there was only one country that was good. I think I'm trying to look and see who did. I think it's Slovakia is the only one that has a actually good jersey, and I think it's actually pretty nice. But the rest of these are just awful. Awful cash grab. Some of them probably didn't even know they were going to make it to the Olympics and kind of rushed the assignment. The jerseys are just, they're not it for me. I'm not really a buy it. Again, I said I'm not a big Olympics guy. I'm not really interested in Olympics or international sport. And these jerseys definitely do not scream, wow, these are the most groundbreaking design of all time. That's not it for me. The jerseys are not good. Hopefully seeing them on ice will change our minds, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, I can see what you mean about like the USA jerseys bearing a lot of resemblance to the Rangers. Like it's honestly uncanny. But at the same time, I feel like so many people have an attachment to that jersey. Like a lot of people look at that jersey and they think about the Miracle on Ice, which to this day is still one of the most amazing upsets in sports history. And so for that reason, they're probably never going to ditch that look. They will always make a comeback. And yeah, generally the jerseys haven't been fantastic in my opinion. Now, I don't have a problem with like Canada having a black jersey cuz like it's normal for countries to have a color that isn't on their flag on their sports jerseys, but this black jersey in particular just was not as good as I was hoping, and I really wanted to get a black jersey, but I don't think I will. The Italian one kind of looks like it looks like a car logo, dude. Like, okay, so it's blue. We're used to seeing Italy wear blue at international sporting events, but oh my god, like it looks like it's trying to be a car logo. And yeah, France, like you said, theirs wasn't great either, to be honest. Germany, I think theirs is great. I like the look of the black jersey. I think I like the look of the gold jersey. Like that's a great look for Germany, and like their coat of arms, it looks fantastic. And also Sweden. I like Sweden's Olympic hockey jerseys. They're not doing much, but I think the navy blue and the yellow, it goes so good together. It's like a darker shade of blue that they have on their flag, but I really love that shade of navy blue. I think it looks so amazing in contrast to the yellow. It's like the Nashville Predators, but better. So, great job to Sweden on that front. And I'm going to be looking forward to seeing William Nylander wearing that jersey.
Yeah, inversely, I feel like there are a lot of people, or at least some people, that like the U.S. jersey this year, probably because it's a copy paste formula or more of it's kind of similar to old design of the past. I'm not really wowed by it, as I said before. Sweden's jersey is really nice. It's simple, it gets straight to the point. It's not too much at once. It's just the three crowns, which has been, I believe, it's their country's symbol. But yeah, and since we're talking about jerseys, is I think our last topic we can talk about the hometown remix. That's fine with you.
Oh, yeah. I've been looking forward to this.
All right, so because I brought it up in my Discord chat room, which you guys, if you guys are listening to this, you guys should join. We talk about sports occasionally. Sometimes we'll talk about that. Getting back to the point, I saw it on Instagram one day. I believe it was I was on break at work. Someone who worked in shipping posted on a Reddit a list of hockey jerseys, a shipment next year, and certain colors for teams, and the abbreviation HTR, which people have said stands for Hometown Remix. Now, what this person said is that teams will get certain jerseys with some connection to their hometown. And I'm actually going to list off the teams and their colors. So Anaheim's going to be green, Boston will be brown, Buffalo will be navy, Calgary will be red, Carolina will be gray, Chicago will be green, Colorado will be white, Columbus will be gray, Dallas will be white, Detroit will be red, Edmonton will be black, Florida will be pink, Los Angeles will be purple, Minnesota will be black, Montreal will be navy, Nashville will be navy, New Jersey will be black, the Islanders will be white, the Rangers will be black, the Senators will be black, the Flyers will be black, the Penguins will be navy, the Sharks will be teal, the Kraken will be navy, the Blues will be black, the Lightning will be black, the Maple Leafs will be beige / vintage white, the Mammoth will be ice blue, the Canucks will be navy, the Golden Knights will be black, the Capitals will be royal blue, and the Jets will be navy blue. Now, initially, a black Blues jersey, that is absolutely awesome. I am excited to see a black Blues jersey. I feel like it's been due for a long time. We've had a yellow jersey, which is mixed. I hate it when people put the Blues current logo on a yellow background, but for the reverse retro, it was fine. There was that red jersey, which definitely is not controversial with this fan base. We've, of course, had white jerseys, we've had vintage white jerseys, and, of course, we've had blue. We've had the classic blue, royal blue, navy blue. We've never had baby blue, which is another color I wish I'd love to see on a Blues jersey, but we've never had a black jersey, which I'm excited for. I'm probably gonna ask it for either for Christmas or I'll probably just buy it myself when it comes out because I would love to see a black Blues jersey. I'm excited. There are other teams that look intriguing as well. The Panthers with a pink Miami Vice, what people are predicting. The Kings bringing back purple, which about time. And as weird as me to say, the Blackhawks with a green jersey. Some people might be surprised or confused, but I hear Chicago has a big Irish communities, and Chicago dyes the river green for St. Patrick's Day, so it makes sense. A beige Maple Leafs jersey. I'm gonna ask your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the hometown remix in a beige Maple Leafs jersey?
First of all, I just gotta say, I love the idea of this hometown remix. I'm actually looking on a forum post on sportslogos.net, which is a website I use a lot for research for my videos. And someone by the name of JP Sports Design created a mock-up of different jerseys from the Atlantic, Metropolitan, and Pacific divisions. I don't think he's made concepts for the Central teams yet. But I gotta say, beige for the Leafs, I like it. It's got that vintage look. I think that's the appropriate way to go. And, I think it really ties into the city and its connection with the sport. And so I think that was a great way to go. I'm just going to quickly run through here and say my opinions on some other teams. Habs being blue, I like that idea, I think them having a blue jersey is a nice contrast to their usual red threads. Panthers being pink, I think it's a bit weird for them to go the Miami Vice route since they don't technically play in Miami or even Miami-Dade County for that matter, but the concept of that existing could work, especially if they use the jumping panther logo, which I love so much. Penguins being blue, obviously they used to have blue in their color scheme, so I think that has a way of working well. Actually, I think before I continue talking, I'm just going to copy and paste this into the Discord chat so that you can look at it at your own discretion.
I think I actually found the sports logo net forum. Yeah, I think I found it because I see the other teams, but I don't see the Central.
Yeah, the Central's not on there.
I think I did find the account that did make this, and I think they might have made jerseys for the Central, but I'll have to double check. But yeah, so far most of these seem solid, although a lot of people are complaining why a lot of teams are getting black jerseys, which Blues, it makes sense. Black and blue, that's a good color scheme as long as you do it properly. The Flyers, they've had black in their color scheme since they were born. New Jersey, same deal. The Lightning as well. The Golden Knights, I think the Golden Knights with black jerseys is going to look good. Now, other teams like the Oilers, the Wild, the Rangers, those three teams don't make sense. Now, a Wild, what some people have wanted is a purple jersey as a tribute to Prince. And I feel like what the Wild should do is have a black jersey with a purple base, or more of like, I think you get what I mean. A black jersey, but with a primary purple color scheme. No green, no red, no yellow, just black and purple. I think that would look absolutely fantastic. A Prince Rain Wild jersey. I think the Blue Jackets with gray is kind of weird to me, only because I'm a bit of a history person. It was my favorite subject in school, and I don't know if you know the American Civil War, but the Blue Jackets are named after Union soldiers who wore blue outfits. The Confederates, the bad guys, they wore gray. I think some people might have referred to them as gray jackets, but I don't know. Part of me about there's just some part of me that feels a team named after the Civil War good guys wearing the color of the bad guys, even though gray or technically silver is part of the Blue Jackets color scheme. Part of me just seems kind of weird, although I'm hoping the Blue Jackets jersey is a more silver theme. than gray. Unless there's something about Columbus, or maybe it's a tie-in with Ohio State. I guess that makes sense. Other teams, some look kind of basic, and others are going to be kind of copies and pastes of their own color scheme. See Detroit, Calgary. Some of those might be kind of bland. Curious what Anaheim and green have to do, because Anaheim's an orange county, and they've really gone on the whole orange, orange, orange theme. So I'm curious what the green has to do with it, unless it's a Mighty Ducks or Disney throwback. So I'm curious what this is.
Yeah, so going back to what you said about Columbus, yeah, I know about what they're named after. I have very like surface level knowledge about the American Civil War. And while it is ironic that they're going to be wearing the colors of the bad guys, I can't help but think that this will be an amazing look. Now, those of you watching the screen right now, take everything you're seeing with a grain of salt, okay? Like, these are mock up designs. These could be wildly different from what we end up seeing. The only thing you should keep in mind is the base color. That's the only thing that's important. And I just think that Columbus could make a gray jersey work. I'm hoping they use that same logo that they did in the Stadium series, because I liked that one. Like, all they have to do is an inverse of that, and it would be a slam dunk. I also want to address all the black jerseys. Some people say black is starting to become an overused color in the NHL, and I kind of agree. Like, I don't think the Rangers need a black jersey. Like, really? Do they need that? Blues? I think the Blues could make a black jersey work, but I'm just trying to picture one in my head that doesn't look like Megamind's costume or Invincible's costume from, like, the most recent season of that show. So, I hope they make that work. Oilers being black, I think, makes sense because they are, well, oil's black, so, it just makes sense. And I'm just looking at what I'm seeing. The neon orange and the navy blue looks really good in contrast with the black. Kings in purple, I'd be good with that, but I hope they include some gold somewhere on there. It just, seeing the Kings in purple just doesn't look good if there's no gold. The Ducks, yeah, I think we're in for more Mighty Ducks nostalgia baiting because they just love doing that. Kraken navy blue is the right way to go. And overall, I think we're going to be in for some great designs next year. I'm looking forward to that. I hope some teams that are usually pretty conservative with their designs, like the Red Wings, I hope they, try something new and like fresh while still paying homage to, their roots as an original Six franchise. I know that's a strike. I know it's hard to strike that balance, but I think they can do it if they think outside the box a little bit. Devils in black, we've seen that before, and hopefully it's better than their jersey wordmark jerseys, because I am not a huge fan of those ones. But, we just gotta wait and see here. I think we definitely have to do a more in-depth review of the jerseys when they come out. At least I plan to do that on my channel, at least. So, I think overall, good move for the NHL. I don't know. I haven't actually bought. Well, actually, that's not true. I received the Black Leafs jersey as a gift a few years back, which they've now retired, unfortunately. And I haven't actually bought a Leafs jersey in quite a while, or like a hockey jersey in general. So, if I like what the Leafs do with theirs, I might buy it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so since you mentioned black jerseys in the NHL, the following teams have a black jersey: Boston, Buffalo, Calgary, Carolina, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, New Jersey, Ottawa, San Jose, Pittsburgh, San Jose, Seattle, Tampa, Utah, Vancouver. Now, Los Angeles has two black jerseys because for some reason their third jersey has to be the same color as their home jersey. You mentioned the jersey. Now, this is the final season of the jersey. The Devils did announce that this is the last year, so this is probably a good way for New Jersey to get rid of this one and bring in a new design. And I'm just glad that every team will have a quote unquote alternate jersey next year, because there are some teams that do not wear alternate jerseys and they are pretty boring. And I'm also hoping, if there is one team that I hope steps out of the box that some people probably don't think, it's Philadelphia. Even Detroit has done a few fun things before, like Detroit's Winter Classic jersey in 2014, and their Centennial jersey this year is amazing. It is fantastic. Philadelphia doesn't really do anything fun. Aside from that one rejected concept that had teal in the color scheme, which had an actual secondary logo, the Flyers have never really had secondary logos. The closest we had was a mid 2000s alternate with a shinier crest. I'm hoping Philadelphia does something fun. It's probably going to be some sort of either a Quakers throwback or something else. I just hope it doesn't have that stupid wing P. I don't like the Flyers logo, mainly because the Flyers are kind of boring. Back to the Blues, what I'm hoping the Blues do is don't put the note on the front. Don't even have the note on anything on the uniform. Put any of the new alternate logos, the STL, the fleur-de-lis, maybe not the river music trumpet, but either the STL or the fleur-de-lis on the front, maybe with like a blue border outline, a white, put the STL or the fleur-de-lis in white and have a blue border outline. That would look amazing. I would buy that. That would look absolutely amazing. Have the STL on the front, fleur-de-lis on the shoulders. That would look amazing. I would buy that.
All right, I see your vision. I see your vision there, and I hope that they go somewhere in that direction. But, that's always exciting, and we'll see what they come up with. But I think that just about concludes this episode, unless there's something else you want to talk about.
Nope, that is it for me. It is almost 11 o'clock my time, and it's not like I have school tomorrow or anything. Oh, wait, I do. And it's not like I have a 10 a.m. class tomorrow. Oh, wait, I do. So, yeah, I think that's about it for tonight's episode. I don't know when this is going to be released, but whenever it does, hopefully you guys enjoy this one, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you all very much for watching. We will see you in episode 7.